From the MCA DSV offices in Jefferson City, I am Public Affairs Director Matthew Huffman, and this is Momentum, a webcast produced by your coalition connecting advocates across the state. In this episode, we are recording actually directly after finishing the first meeting of our new prevention capacity building cohort. And so I'm very excited to have three folks who will be joining us for this 2-year project, and I am going to turn it over and allow them to introduce themselves.
Hi everybody, my name is Rachel Carter and I'm with Harmony House in Springfield, Missouri, and I'm our Prevention Education Coordinator.
Hello, my name is Jess McLean and I work at Safe Connections as a prevention educator, working with 6th through 12th graders in classroom-based prevention education.
Hello, my name's Phoenix. I'm also with Safe Connections. I run the Project Heart program. We go to schools all over the St. Louis area, speaking to 6th through 12th graders about topics such as healthy relationships, teen dating violence, and survivor support.
Excellent. Well, Phoenix, Jess, Rachel, thanks for being here today. So just to kind of get us started, I'm really excited at the end of the day today that y'all were able to stay, chat with me about some of the work that you're doing in your communities, and that you're going to be part of this cohort for the next 2 years. A lot of information is going to be coming out about it, so I won't give any spoilers to our listeners. But I feel really good about the shared goals that we created and about a lot of the things that we're going to be working on together. So more to come for our listeners. But to introduce you all a little more and give folks an idea of who will be participating in the cohort, I kind of want to get us started by just asking, what drew you to prevention work? And did you get started in prevention, or did you find your way into it through direct services? But what drew you to it, and how did you get involved?
Well, yeah, I'll go ahead and start. So I definitely started in direct service work. My background is in social work, and I worked as an advocate in Harmony House's advocate office, our 24-hour advocate office, for a while. Then I did case management for some time. And then I moved to St. Louis actually for a few years and did community education. It wasn't healthy relationship or dating violence related, but it was nutrition related. I did healthy cooking and nutrition classes all throughout the community. And I really found a love for community education. But I still kind of had a personal connection with the IPV movement, and so this position opened up back at Harmony House, and it was a perfect fit, kind of bringing those two things together.
Yeah. Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also started in direct service, so working with survivors, and then more specifically working with children of survivors, and kind of seeing that as a type of prevention work, and ending the cycle of violence. But really what always was in my mind was prevention work, and just a lot of hope that with tools and information, people would have more options, more opportunities, and we would see a culture shift.
I also got started in direct services. I worked at a shelter throughout college in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and it always bothered me that we would see the same folks come in over and over. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we'd see their family members, their daughters, their sisters, and I realized how much of it really is a cycle and how common it is in some families. And I finished college, became a teacher, but I always wanted to do prevention because to me, that's really teaching skills that students need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting that the three of you did direct services and then moved over into prevention. I think that we all find our path to prevention in different routes, but I do think it's pretty common that folks can get started doing direct service work and then see this need to move upstream, right? And really work on preventing violence before it ever starts.
Absolutely.
So I got started whenever I was on my college campus and got started in prevention and education. And then after graduation, got a job doing direct services at my local program and did that for 2 years, working overnight in the shelter. And it was after those 2 years that I realized, I have to get back into prevention work. Mm-hmm. And Phoenix, kind of to your point of seeing this generational cycle,
Yes.
Seeing that and thinking, I know that I can make an impact in these individual lives for people, but how can I start working on doing more of that culture change and community change? So I always find it really interesting that we have so much to learn in both like trauma and direct services and healing, and also how that informs our work in prevention too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, just thinking about that a little more, are there things that you feel like you really learned from direct service that you've brought into your prevention work?
For me, the biggest thing is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. I think a lot of times as folks who work in this field, it's very easy for us to maybe judge someone or not really understand why they keep going back. But being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes really helps you understand why they're still there and why it is so difficult for them to leave.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I think so often in our work, we have to do a lot of that reframing and educating folks in the larger community about those things. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think empathy building is such a big piece of direct service, and just recognizing that people are doing the best that they can, and maybe that's why they're in the relationship that they're in, or they're trying as hard as they can to keep themselves surviving. But that's where prevention comes in, and hoping that we can kind of give them more support, more options.
Absolutely. I think kind of speaking to your point, Phoenix, about this kind of being a generational problem and learning that, and I hear that from the students that I work with, is the behaviors and the things that they are learning about relationships they've learned at home. And so having that compassionate understanding of working with survivors and knowing where these things are coming from, I feel like really helps inform prevention.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and I want to build on that a little bit, Rachel. So thinking about working with young people and them even identifying, these are behaviors I've seen, just the resilience of young people and how resilient that young people are. And I don't know if we always give them credit for that. But young folks are incredibly resilient and creative and already have the answers oftentimes.
Yes.
So I'm curious to hear from y'all. What's something that you have learned from the young people you work with, or you've been inspired by?
I will say my biggest thing is that so many young folks, they're just so willing to try new things and learn new things. Something I also see in young folks that I didn't see when I was younger was how empathetic they are towards others. I have seen teenagers and preteens just be so kind and loving towards people that are different than them. And it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah.
I wish all adults could act that way.
Right? Something we can all learn from young folks?
Yes.
Absolutely. I think something that young people that I've worked with have taught me, especially in regards to this work and having these really kind of serious or seemingly serious conversations about really tough topics, is not to take yourself too seriously. I think that was something that surprised me a lot coming into this work, is we're talking about dating violence and really intense stuff, but we're laughing a lot throughout the way, and they've really helped teach me that when I'm kind of forming lessons and thinking about how to approach these tough topics, is don't take yourself too seriously sometimes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and just kind of like taking those both into consideration of just how young people are willing to cultivate that resiliency for each other. And my role has really offered me the privilege to be considered a safe person at times, and be exposed to that incredible resiliency firsthand.
And I'm also just always inspired when I see in the news how young folks are organizing and mobilizing.
Yes.
It's amazing.
So like in St. Louis with students mobilizing around gun violence, and like seeing those spark up all around the country. And just seeing that there's so much energy and passion into the work that young folks are doing, I think that can be really inspiring for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, prevention has really kind of evolved from awareness events, and I think that it's important that we kind of recognize the foundation of how the work got started. But we've kind of moved on from only having awareness events to now getting out, doing community education, teaching skills, trying to change behaviors. So all of that being said, where do you all see the field going now with prevention?
I actually see young people kind of taking it over.
Oh,
Honestly, one of the trends that I've noticed, I've been doing this for about 6 years now, and I have noticed so many students are contacting us and saying, hey, we're having a sexual violence awareness week at our school. We're having a domestic violence awareness thing at our school. We already have all of this stuff planned. Can you come in and be a speaker?
Yes.
And I'm just amazed at, and just my mind is blown by how 13, 14, 15-year-olds can plan an entire week and get all of these people to come in. And I really see them kind of taking over from us, which is a great thing. You know, they learn more from each other than they do from us sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great point, because I think sometimes, the messenger matters, right? So who is
Absolutely.
delivering that matters a lot. And if we can give young people the tools they need, then they're already leading the way. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a really great point, Phoenix. Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree, Phoenix. This is going to, if already is, and will become even more youth-led prevention movement. And I'm also sensing that it's going to continue to be rooted more in social justice and anti-oppression work. And hopefully that those who will start passing the mic and continue passing the mic to people who hold more marginalized identities.
100%. Yeah, I would just echo what the both of you said. I think this is definitely going to be youth-led work. I got the privilege to go to the National Coalition Conference back in October, and I was able to listen to a session from somebody from the Biden Foundation, and they were talking about youth-led work and how she created this project where she traveled all over the country and did listening sessions with youth about gender-based violence, and used that to kind of inform the lessons in the curriculum that she created. And that was so inspiring, because they know what's relevant and important to them way
Yes.
better than we ever are going to. And that really helped me frame my perspective on approaching this work, because we definitely, as the folks working in these organizations, don't have all the answers. You know, the youth often have way more than I'm ever going to. So putting it in their hands and just providing that support, I think, is huge.
So let's go a little deeper into that. How do you think we can support youth voices and youth-led movements? Because I think we have this agreement around the table of the value and the importance of it. But sometimes it's difficult to prioritize that. And I think often youth can feel really disempowered by the adults around them. So like, how do we lift that up and support it?
I'll start if no one else wants to. I think a lot of it is listening to them, not discounting their experiences. I know that is something that a lot of adults do. They say, well, you don't know, you're young, and that's not true at all. And that is really difficult for a teen to hear. Most of the teens we talk to, they know what they want, they know how to build stuff, they just need the support to do it. I mean, I think part of it is listening to them and supporting them and encouraging them. And sometimes that means that we as adults have to step out of the way.
Yeah.
And that's difficult for a lot of adults, but it's also very necessary.
Yeah, that's a great point. We have to be able to check ourselves.
Yes. To me, that's a huge part of it.
Absolutely.
And I think those conversations are starting to focus even on very young kids and talking about what does consent look like for toddlers, and giving even elementary age or middle school age students the power to speak their minds and make their own decisions.
I think another great way to support youth, and I know that funding is always a challenge in this work, but incentivizing them to hold these spaces and have these conversations. That was something that that speaker at the conference talked about a lot, is when she held these listening sessions, she incentivized youth for their time, because their time is valuable and their ideas were valuable. So something as simple as like a small gift card for every youth, she said that made all of the difference when bringing them to the table and organizing them together, because their time and their ideas are valuable.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was really a great suggestion.
Well, yeah, that's such a really great point that you bring up, Rachel, that, I mean, youth deserve to be compensated for their time and expertise.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And we also have to be able to recognize barriers in that too, right? So are you providing a safe space maybe after school that also provides a snack,
Yeah.
right? Are there transportation issues of being able to have youth participate in your programs or a listening session? But making sure that they do feel valued and compensated for their time and expertise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that that's such a really important aspect that can be overlooked too, is that, you know, we can be really well-meaning and well-intentioned in our programs, but if we don't have that engagement and investment, what are some of those reasons? Yeah.
Well, and also making sure that it's accessible for all youth.
Yeah.
Because we occasionally have events at our office, and it's difficult because most of the students that come in are students who either have their own transportation or they have a parent who is home and not exhausted and able to bring them. One of the things we have started offering bus passes for that so that all students can participate, not just those who have cars or who have parents that have cars.
Yeah, I think that's a really important aspect too, as we're thinking about prevention programs and supporting youth-led movements. You know, how are we making sure that those are inclusive and accessible to all youth? So yeah, that's a great point as well. Yeah. So adding to that a bit, you know, thinking about how we can really support and lift up and have sustainable youth-led movements, let's now just say that we can dream big. So if y'all were going to leave the coalition office today with a blank check from me and a charge to go back and create whatever prevention program you would want in your community, what would that look like?
First, I would say thank you very much for all of this.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think my dream of dreams is a K through 12 at least curriculum, so that these, like I said earlier, like that these conversations are starting as soon as possible, and beyond that, getting parents more engaged and more community reach.
Absolutely. I would build off of that, Jess, and really thinking about that comprehensive approach to prevention, engaging youth and parents and everybody else in that youth's life that has some type of influence. Kind of bringing in that whole circle and creating prevention programs and education for everybody and making sure everybody feels like they have a spot at that table. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, I would also want to, I guess, create policies and ways so that folks feel more economically empowered, because a lot of our students are in a situation where they are living in an abusive environment but can't leave because of money reasons.
Yeah.
For me, that economic empowerment piece is really, really huge. And I would love to just be able to write checks to folks who needed to get out of a bad situation. You know, I would want everyone to have enough money to have spent, to be able to spend time with their kids and teach them about this stuff. And to me, that's just a huge part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Phoenix, from your perspective, it sounds like we need to find a foundation to just constantly be writing these checks out.
Yes.
How do we make that happen?
Yeah, how do we get that?
If anybody's interested, call us, please.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I think that the three of you bring up a really good point, that what we need are more comprehensive and wraparound programmings.
Yes.
That start early, that reinforce like really positive behaviors and attitudes. But yeah, I mean, Phoenix, to your point, thinking about, you know, when we're working with youth, we're only seeing one aspect of their life, but there are whole other facets that they have happening that, you know, sometimes we're lucky enough that they share it with us, but we never deserve that from them.
Right.
But yeah, really recognizing that to have all of the support means you are looking at the wraparound services to support all of your well-being.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that that's a great goal for us to work towards. I'm not sure how we get there just yet, but
I'm
yeah,
optimistic.
certainly.
Yeah.
Yes. But it is good to be optimistic around it. And to really think about, we need to keep that education aspect at the core of it, but certainly think more about policy change and how we can really cultivate a landscape that not only supports but reinforces all of this work that we're doing to educate folks. Yeah. So more work to come, certainly. Maybe.
Luckily, we have a cohort. So
Yeah.
we're on our way.
Yep, on our way. And you were right where I was going with it too. These might be things that the cohort is working on. So kind of to wrap around as a final question for folks, I like to end our webcast on kind of a silly question to just get folks a little more like comfortable talking and connecting with each other. And it is November after all, so we're getting closer into kind of holiday times. We have different traditions that come along with holidays. Actually, just as you were talking about having education that starts even in preschool on around healthy relationships, healthy sexuality, consent, it reminded me of an article that I read last year and I just saw resurface. And it's not forcing your kids to give hugs at holidays.
Yeah.
Which is something that I think we can often overlook, right? But giving young people voice and choice over do they actually want to hug a family member or a friend of the family, or do they not want to, and that's fine, right?
Yes. We have that in my family with my nieces and nephew.
Yes.
We always ask, can I give you a hug? And if they say no, sometimes they say, not right now.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't feel like giving a hug.
Yeah, even as adults, there are certainly
yeah.
times as well. So,
Yes.
Yeah. So certainly young people should be able to say, nah, not feeling it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
My family relies heavily on the fist bump instead of hugs.
Ooh,
There
that's
you
a good
go.
one.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that. I'm a big fan of high fives as well. But yeah, I like that. Giving young people choice. Yeah, voice and choice in it. So, thinking about positive and fun holiday traditions, what are some of your favorite holiday traditions?
So I'll follow up with what you said was kind of a fun and silly question with a fun and silly answer. My mom and I, since I was probably about 15, every year we bake a big batch of gingerbread, like ginger people, and we make them nude ginger people. And that has been a very fun, always fun things come out of that. It's my favorite tradition to share with people because they're like, you do that with your mom? I'm like, oh yes, we do. It's very fun. So that's my favorite kind of not traditional holiday tradition.
I love it. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Tough to follow that one up. But ever since I was a kid, my family would read picture books on Christmas Eve. All together as a family, and now that we are all grown and my sister has a daughter, we continue that tradition. There is almost no naked gingerbread people now. But I could suggest that for this year.
Nice. We, instead of giving out presents, like I guess most folks do, we actually do a white elephant gift exchange. And in my family, we have a couple of gifts that have made the rounds. When you get this gift, you wrap it up for the next year. Some have included a very ugly nativity scene that's been passed around for several years. A banana holder that I got at the Dollar Tree many years ago. I think it's on its 6th or 7th round. We pass them around. And the trick is to wrap them in fancy packaging so that the people don't realize they're actually getting a banana holder.
That's a challenge.
Because once you get that banana holder, no one else wants to take it from you.
No one else is going to take it.
No, you're stuck
Until
with
next
it for a
year when you recycle it again.
Right.
Exactly. Every year. I think I'm going to amp it up this year and get an apple holder.
Ooh.
So I've seen those at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
It'll be popular.
Oh, that's funny. These are really good traditions. I feel like we're going to leave this recording and all the listeners are going to leave with new and fresh ideas. Like, you know what we've never thought of? New gingerbread. Or like, how can I disguise the white elephant gift that no one really wants? Yeah. Well, excellent. I want to thank y'all for taking time to be on the webcast today, especially because I just want to acknowledge the three of you drove in this morning from Springfield and St. Louis. You're taking time at the end of a really productive day where we were all sharing with one another to sit here and share out more with the full prevention community in Missouri and really connect with others. So I appreciate y'all for doing this.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And for other folks listening, we, again, will have more opportunities for you to connect with the prevention cohort, for them to connect with you, and we're really looking forward to seeing where the next 2 years takes us. So, onward.
Exciting times.
Onward.
Yeah.